Okay, it is 6:30, so we are going to get started. First on the list is the public hearing for the comprehensive permit for 47 Main Street. Kevin, you want to give us an update?
I do. First of all, hello. Haven't seen you guys in a month or so.
We miss you, by the way.
I miss you too, and that's why I'm here. I'm going to let David give the update.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure David is learning here as we go.
Well, I'm glad.
Questions.
I'm glad you're here because when neighbors have questions and stuff, it's very nice to have you here to answer them.
Yeah.
And I have a couple questions and points for you too tonight. I have notes, so you're in trouble.
Good evening. As you all know, this is not the last meeting. I know we left the last meeting unaware of that. Based on your recommendation, we have agreed to keep the meeting open so we continue to have dialogue and so that Chris Alphin can be present. I believe it looks like he may be on, but regardless, always happy to have Chris. We would like to update you on the list, as we always do, on the items that have improved since the last meeting. We continue to work with Stantec on improvements on our overall drainage plan. The last thing they asked us to do was add double catch basins in certain areas, which we've done. And Stantec has issued a clean letter of approval when it comes to drainage and stormwater management. So it's, they most likely will not be here again, which is good. We applaud them, and they did a great job and went through 5 rounds of edits. We've been working with our neighbors at 45 Main Street and 4 and 6 School Street. In doing so, we provided a drainage plan to help improve their existing conditions for all 3 neighbors. Also, as agreed upon, we have provided a landscape buffer plan for 4 School Street for fall. We have started our public hearing process with the Conservation Commission. They have hired their design review expert. Our next meeting is Wednesday, June 26th. And over the next 4 weeks or so, we will continue to work with Mike, town planner, Chris, town attorney, in providing any additional information that they may need as they draft the final decision. And we fully expect the July meeting to be the last, and we didn't quite make it a year, but almost. So
yeah, that's actually not bad.
Yeah. So any other questions? I'm here as well as Kevin.
Okay. I don't know. I saw Chris's draft decision. It's a draft though, so it's not. As soon as it's a little bit less rough form, it's going to get out on the website and everything else. Kevin, Mike, can I steal back that list?
Oh yeah.
I just want to touch base with Kevin on a couple things. It's not a horrendous list, and some of these will be for us. But one of the things on page 17 under B26. The draft decision had mentioned 32-inch doors. I'm a really big fan of 36. I know on 149 you were willing to change those out to 36-inch doors for better handicap accessibility. I would be asking, and the board I hope I could have convinced to ask to make those 36. I know it's not a huge difference. Okay. Actually, before I go for this item, that was that's one of my biggest things. I think it's a bit more fair to let the board see the whole draft. It's still in draft form, but let them see it, let them make their own comments.
I think, Bill, for us, that we knew it was just in rough draft form, which is why we definitely knew we needed another 4 weeks here so we could all
we appreciate that.
And what needs to be in there.
Chris is super important to us.
Yeah.
He's really guiding us. Between him and Mike or Amy, we'd be lost without him. So the other thing is, the other ones are just minor things that we'll get into that draft. But one thing I wanted you to think about is electric charging and the infrastructure that's going to be needed for that. I think it hasn't really been a discussion point. You're going to have 90 cars, 2035. You're not going to be able to buy a gas-powered new car in Massachusetts unless they push it back. But still, even if it gets pushed back 5 years, there's some real infrastructure that's required for that sort of change. And I want you to give you a heads up that might be something we really look at in July, so you might want to put your folks on it. Because that takes significant infrastructure. Even if you just run the conduit, it'd make it a heck of a lot easier,
Yeah.
okay? But I'll leave the rest of the stuff until the whole board has seen the draft.
Yeah.
And whenever you share that out, I'm assuming you're sharing it then?
Oh, yeah. So, Attorney Alphen circulated the draft decision, and to myself, the chair, the applicant, and so we're just making sure to go through it to remove any glaring
Right.
mistakes right now.
Right.
But I anticipate probably as early as tomorrow, uploading it onto the website so everybody can see it and be a part of it.
Yeah, and for those in the public, take the time to sit through and read through all the details, because a lot of the stuff is stuff that you've asked for, and we're making sure that it gets memorialized into that draft. You've come here, you spent the time, you've invested. I think that's, I want to say thank you for doing that, and just make sure that those things are reflected in that. It's not final, it's a draft. And most of you we all understand that process is an ongoing process. I want to turn it over to my other board members with their questions and concerns right now.
Bill, I had a question. Is there a number of car charges that the board is thinking about, or it's more just?
I haven't even talked about this guy.
Okay.
It came out day before yesterday or something like that, and I was sadly tiling floor all day long, which is a horrible
The
process.
charges, I mean, as you know, we do a lot of development. And
Charges are expensive.
Well, interestingly, when one of the last meetings I was here was with the gas station was before us, and you guys were arguing over who had the first car charger in town, but it was us, by the way. Because 149 has I think at least two areas for it.
Yeah.
But the thing that's happened is that, I mean, literally in a 5-year period, we're already on to the generation 3, they're calling for the car chargers, right?
Right.
So the ones that we have at 149, it's literally one of those like 16-hour charges. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that didn't make any sense. I mean, how many cars are you going to have sitting there, right? And now the new ones are getting to be more like 20 to 25 minutes. But there's still the whole technology problem with, are they universal enough? So I guess I'm hoping that we don't have to put in a gazillion of the wrong ones right now, but I will absolutely work with my electrical contractors to look at the, makes it easier for me too, obviously, if I have the conduit, so.
Yeah, the thing is if the conduits, if there's a good piece of conduit in the ground where you can
Yeah.
pull the cable through,
Yeah.
you don't have to tear up sidewalks.
Right.
It's not going to cost the condo association a huge amount of money to put it in.
Yeah.
Even 1 or 2 runs of conduit in the right place can be a
Yeah.
tremendous saver.
Yeah.
You've dug around buildings that are pre-existing. It's
Yeah,
a
we don't
nightmare.
like to do that. Yes.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. There may, I don't know if you've looked at the legislation that's coming out of the House
We
right
actually met
now.
with legislators yesterday on this whole issue,
Okay.
and they're definitely going to push back on it. It's going to certainly get tripped up, but to your point, they said that it's, the most it's going to be pushed back is maybe 2 to 5 years.
Right, but there may be
It's
some money,
definitely
there may be some money available
Yeah.
for you
Yeah.
to incentivize you to put that infrastructure in.
Yeah.
Okay, so just something that, in my first read through that document, something I was thinking of. I thought 2 was, might not be sufficient for the future. Okay, Bob, do you have any questions or concerns for them? Because I want to also put it out to the committee, to the public.
Not at this time. I'll wait till I see the draft
Okay.
and then go from there.
Mr. Humes?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Michael Lucas. I know we're not going into a lot of detail tonight, because this is really, without our guiding attorney here, we don't want to go too far into this piece tonight. Mike, you wanted to say something, then I was going to turn it over to any questions from the public.
Yeah, Mike Antonellis, Director of Land Use Inspectional Services. I had indicated to the board tonight, tonight was going to be an opportunity for the board, if you had any questions regarding the waivers. Bill, as you were just prompting the board, if they have any comments about what they'd like to see in the decision, I think that's appropriate for tonight. But if there are any questions, comments, anything regarding the waivers, I think now's the time to get that out and direct that to the applicant so they can, if they can't address that tonight, they can address that ahead of the next meeting.
Okay.
And sorry, can you hear me?
Yes?
This is Chris. I just add to Mike, I think it might be a good idea if the applicant is ready tonight to go through the waiver list, so that we know exactly what's being requested and it's part of the public hearing process. If they can just briefly go through the waiver list and explain to the board why they requested each waiver.
We would like our attorney, John Smolak, and Ed, our 40B advisor here.
Okay.
We kind of pushed it with the idea that this would just be kind of an update, given that, so. At this time,
Okay.
we choose the pass.
The only one I have to chuckle at is, I just paid for a sewer connection, and I think my permits for sewer and water connection, my permits were $12,000. And I know you're asking for a waiver for all of it, because, can you imagine 12,000 per unit? It's a tremendous amount. I totally get it. But boy, I kind of would like you to pay as much, at least as I did. So at least for one. But anyways, Mike.
Oh, yeah, and just a couple of housekeeping items to just address before we, I just received a number of emails today, so haven't had a chance to disseminate that to the board. David Pine had emailed me copies of the plan, but I'm pretty sure that was the most revised plan that was previously submitted anyway, but I'll just make sure that the plan that was reviewed by Stantec, that Stantec has signed off on, stating that they don't have any, that they think all their comments have been addressed in their most recent memo that was issued to the board this week or last week, that they reviewed the most recent plans and that they don't have any more comments, and they believe that all their comments have been addressed. And that's why you don't have Stantec here tonight, because they didn't have much to, if anything, to present on.
Which is it's good that they've resolved the issues.
Stantec is taking a look at the proposed conditions and will follow up in a separate memo to the board if they feel anything should be included on their side of things, obviously stormwater, transportation, civil. I don't have any indication that they would be suggesting to add anything at this time, but I did ask them to look at that. So one of the things that I did get an email today was from, I believe Megan Lacasse and Dan Lacasse on School Street. So did I send that along yet? I just got it today, so I apologize. I've been behind following up on these things. So I'll pass that along. They just had a comment about the, agreement along with I believe Paul's property, Paul Norton, and some, I think it had to do with fencing and arborvitae or something on their side of the property. So that was just a comment that they had regarding the agreements memo with the other neighbors.
We want to get memorialized.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I believe Craig Weinfuss emailed me some photographs today as well. I haven't had a chance to look at those or disseminate those to the board. I think I will receive those within the last hour.
Okay.
So again, anything and everything that I receive distributed to the board, to the applicant for public review. But I just wanted to make note of those things that I received.
Bill, so I know we don't have that waiver list with us right now, but I'm virtually 100% positive that we are not asking for no fees. I believe that we're asking to do what was similar at 149 Main, and that was no fees for the affordable units, and then the market rate units would be the way it should be. And the thing that does throw it off a little bit is that we're obviously not doing 60 connections. We're still only bringing in one sewer line, one domestic water, and one for fire suppression. So we'll be paying for everything else at the regular.
Yeah, I think it was, I'll look into it. It was waiver number 9.
Yep.
The other thing is, at one point, the fire department, I don't know, did they ever have a conversation with you about, because you're not going to have any other energy source other than electricity, did they ever talk to you about some sort of emergency generator connector?
Well, they did talk to us about that, yes.
And are you going to have something like that?
No. Well, just because it didn't make any actual sense, because even the buildings that run off of natural gas or oil or propane,
They don't work without
still rely on electricity. So if there's no electricity, there's no feet on any building.
Okay, they just mentioned it to me,
Yeah,
so it's,
we did talk to Dan, and that was pretty much the only thing that we couldn't accommodate.
Okay, all right, well, as I say, neither of us have our lawyers here, and they keep us out of trouble. So, is there any questions or concerns that the public would like to just come forward? I always try to make sure that the public has an opportunity to speak. Yes, ma'am. If you can you state your name and address when you come forward? Thank you very much.
I think we're routine by now. Hi, Christine Wolf, 25 Hazeltine Road. Actually, my question, I guess, would be for Kevin, in that list of supplemental, we were talking about the neighbors, specifically, you didn't really told the address going down our direction. Are you looking to add that into the,
They cover the fence, although
yes, the fence,
Yeah.
and possibly we talked about plantings?
We
Yeah, I can
added that, that's actually on the site plan.
Yeah, I can address that.
Perfect.
Yes, so you're talking about we extended the fence and some of the plantings, so that her property would be able to be shielded. That will go into the order, because it's on our property. Those other agreements with the neighbors on their property, so that it wouldn't exactly go into the order. We're still figuring that out, but that can go into the order conditions. We did say we extended the fence, I believe, Mike, in our list of kind of promises we've made to the neighbors. So, yes, that will be, yes, that will be immortalized, just in a different way than what we do with the School Street and 45 Main. So,
Can I ask a question? Why differently?
Because one's on our property, and
Okay.
the other three are on private property.
Okay.
Yeah, the order of conditions has to be on their property.
Yeah.
But they can still have an agreement with you on the side that we can
Well,
make it.
The things that Chris had asked us for, they're not really the order of conditions. They're not in the wetlands. They're part of our site plan, which is what Stan Tech had approved. Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you guys for being understanding that we don't have Chris in person. So thank you guys for coming. Kevin, thank you for coming personally.
No, yeah,
It makes a
another
difference when
meeting
they can
to
talk
figure
to
out.
you directly. Did you have a question, ma'am? By the way, Kevin, I want you to know she praised you the other meeting. You weren't here. So I want you to know she did.
Mark and I have a great relationship.
Yeah. We know each other quite well
Very
now.
well.
Yeah. Marcia Keselowski, 10 Whitney Lane. There was a drawing that went around a long time ago before we had a sketch of what the building was going to look like, trying to figure out what it was going to look like in perspective to 140 and Whitney Lane, what it would look like in back of like the houses and the funeral home, to give it some perspective. Could you give us that?
Well, we did provide that at the first meetings. I don't think we never generated another, I guess, plan of that. I guess the big thing would be it's the old plan, it's about 7 feet lower.
So I believe that's in the webpage, a list of documents, and you can actually go see it. I believe, am I correct, Mel?
The original one.
The original, but you
Yeah.
just dropped it down 7 feet.
Is that one where it's just a line drawing, or was it a sketch of the
It was the
actual
illustration
building?
ones that showed the building.
Really?
Yeah.
And it showed it from 140?
I think we did 140, must be in School
Over
Street.
the funeral home, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Martha, I'll try to email that to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll talk to the architects too, Marcia, just to see if in the next few weeks I can see if it's an easy thing to modify.
Yeah, I mean, if someone tries to do it, they're gonna not have it in perspective, so it would be good to know what it's gonna look like, because everyone's kind of concerned about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I heard a lot of comments from out on the street, walking around town, that people were happy it dropped down that little bit. I know the fire department certainly was happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Since there doesn't seem to be any more public comments, gentlemen, you're all set? Mike, anything else we're not doing, or can we close this part up?
No, that was basically what the agenda was for tonight. But I'll just say it again, it was an opportunity for the board, if you had any specific questions or concerns regarding the waivers, so that you could get those out tonight. If anything comes up in the meantime, individually, if you want to email me, and I can convey that to the applicant to have that addressed ahead of the next meeting, please do, along with anything else, so that we can be in a good position come July. The only thing I wanted to make mention of tonight, as a lot of you are probably already aware, is that the select board has just hired a third-party counsel. So I'm just trying not to get feedback on this. Third-party counsel to do basically a paper review of the public record so far. And if they have any questions, comments, suggestions, or findings ahead of the next meeting, I hope they would provide that to me so that I can address that with the board and our attorney, Chris Alvin. So if we can make any corrections to the record at that time, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So that is currently ongoing through the town manager's office.
Yeah, and I had met with, just so you guys know, I did meet with Joe ahead of time. He didn't want this to be a stab in the back. He wanted to just let me know that the selectmen were going to do this, which is, they're right, we still have the granting authority, but if there is something we can do to improve the process and make sure that we cross all the Ts and dot all the Is, I'm willing to take, I'd love to have that feedback. But I think I always like to have Feb and Chris and you and some of them that you guys know the stuff very well. Anyways,
I have one question with what Mike just said. I think our hope was that over the next, between now and the next meeting, that our attorney would be able to work with Chris to kind of continue to hammer through those waivers, so that when we get here in July, we'll all be pretty organized. I know the board will still have questions, but at least our two sides will be organized. That's still okay, right?
yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely, no, that's what I was required in my
Yeah,
understanding is the
this-
oh, yes, sir, yes, Chris.
Yeah, just to butt in there, I think what would work best is if the applicant's attorney can get back revisions to me sooner than later now, because they have the draft copy. I will take revisions, review it with Mike and with the chairman, and see things that we can accept or things that are still might be debatable. They'll make sure that all their changes are done in track changes. So if there's something that needs to be reviewed in July, we can do that, of course. And everything is going to be subject to the board's review and approval. But after we go through that one set of revisions, I would like to send the draft decision to all the board members ahead of time. And of course, we don't want to violate the open meeting law, but board members can review the decision on their own, and if they have specific comments, they could email them without CCing the other board members. They could CC, they could send it to Mike and I if they have any major comments about the decision, so that we can perfect the decision as much as possible.
Oh, I thought it was feedback from this mic. Yeah, that's a good idea. It definitely should go out to everybody. Give my permission ahead of time. Any revisions you make on that, to send them to everyone on the board. I'm not special. They all should see it because their vote is just as important as mine. So you have permission ahead of time. Anything you send to me, you can send to the entire board. We're all equals. So I have no problem with that. And the marching orders, I understand, is that this review of documentation is to be done within the 3 weeks, at least a week before we meet. And a review is not an uncommon practice. And frankly, all of us in our professions need to constantly look at ourselves and make sure we're doing things the right way. Because I don't want to misstep and do something illegally. And Chris has given us great guidance, so thank you, Chris. All right, I'm going to close this up then for now. And oh, sorry. I thought
I'm looking for the rendition that Marsha was talking about. I can't find it. Do you know what it's under? I looked through every tab in here.
I'll track it down and I can email you.
Okay.
We can resend it to you.
Okay. It's not on the webpage though. Thank you.
It is there. I remember
Is it?
It may be in the,
It's within documents.
I went through every document.
All right, I'll track it down and let you know.
Yeah. Because I thought they were very helpful to the neighbors to actually see how big and how tall it was from their houses. I thought it was very helpful, extremely helpful.
I know it was in the PowerPoint initially.
Yes, yes. Okay, all right. So do we need to vote for this continuance, or is it automatic?
Yeah, no, you should take a vote to continue it.
Okay, motion, sir?
July 17th.
Right, I move that we.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry
Yes,
to interrupt again. I just want to button up a couple of last things. I did see that there was a comment letter from the water sewer peer reviewer.
That is correct.
That looked good, no major issues, but I do think that there was a couple outstanding comments that I think the applicant should address. I don't think that would be a problem. And then additionally, we should be asking, I think this is a given, but any comments from the Conservation Commission because they have an application before them and prior to this public hearing closing, if the Conservation Commission wants to give any comments, that might be a good thing. In addition, on the same level, I've asked the applicant to update their waiver list to see if there's any specific wetland regulations that they're asking for waivers on. And I've asked them, and they know that, to see if there's any updates to that waiver list.
Thank you, Chris. On the draft decision, it mentioned that you were going to do a temporary thing through, I think it was the original, the sewer was going to go through the wetlands, and now it's going to go through down the street. I think the documentation on the draft still is asking for that temporary path through the wetlands. It's something we have to change on our documentation. But Chris, you might want to know that that's one of the things that I think's in there. I did see that you put in comments. I loved how you, with the different coloring in the comments about that you wanted things from conservation. So thank you for doing it the way you did. I would say that's just minor cleanup stuff in terms of that wetland. Okay, so.
All right, I move that we continue the hearing and the comprehensive permit application for 47 Main Street to July 17th at 6:30 p.m.
I'll second.
Okay, vote of the board.
Paul Williams, aye. Bob Butler, aye.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Okay, unanimous vote of the board. Guys, thank you both for coming. And thank you for responding when people have concerns. You know, I love that you put in the trench at the end of the driveway because of that 30 feet. Because I got sick of arguing with anyone about that 30 feet. So thank you for making the changes as we asked.
The end of that road is also where Dave from Stantec asked us to double up the catch basins too.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't needed, we just said it'll definitely be a nice addition, so we did.
There we go. Well, you remember my number one concern? Water. So thank you. Okay, we have a request for a continuance on 99 Crockett Road. So when we have a continuance request like that, we don't really discuss it. We just either grant the continuance or not. So Bob, I'm going to hit you for this motion, and you get the next one.
I make a motion that we grant the continuance for 99 Crockett Road, map 13, lot 30.
To what,
To
July
17th.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Vote of the board.
Paul Williams, aye.
Bob Butler, aye.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
And just-
Michael?
Michael Gallup, aye.
There we go.
Apologies, Michael.
Yes.
I just wanted to just state for the record, that was an official request from the applicant because, or the appellant, because their attorney couldn't
Good to be here tonight.
be here tonight.
Okay, well, thank you
So
very much.
we do have that on record. That's all.
That's fine. That's fine. No problem with that. For the next one, for the variance for 12 Stoddard, I actually have to recluse myself and put the my partner in crime here in charge because I'm in a butter. I would love to know why someone put all that work into it and then had it fall down on them, because they put a tremendous amount of work into the building.
Yeah.
So you guys know, the weird thing on this is at some point the town took the whole front yard, all 17 feet of it, right up to the foundation. So there's no way in the world they're going to meet the setbacks. But as a neighbor, I want you to know I'm supportive of them rebuilding this house. And there's, ask about the historical commission too, by the way. But I'm reclusing myself on this one. Taking my chocolate.
All right, and
Just say what you're requesting.
yeah.
Let Eric.
You're the applicant?
Yes, I am.
All right, do you want to provide us some detail on the application, what you're asking for?
Yes, my name is Lorival Santos. I'm asking for to rebuild the house, the same footprint that was. I put it like I say, I put a lot of work on, and I was going to take the second floor of the house, and then the floor joist was 2x6. When I took them, the walls opened it up, and then say I'll go. This was Saturday. I'll go on Monday and talk to him, and then that was my big mistake. Now I'm trying to rebuild the house, but since I took down the house, I lost the
The grandfather rights.
rights that the house was. Now I'm over here asking permission to the variance to rebuild the house, not using the setbacks. Like,
You're proposing to rebuild it on the same footprint?
yes.
Yeah. Are you modifying the foundation at all? Are you building on the old foundation, or are you?
The main house, yes, and then outside the setback, on the setback, I increased as you face out on the right side, but that part is legal. The existing is my problem. I can show you pictures of.
That would be great, yeah. if you're
Yeah.
able to show me.
And I'm sorry, I'm gonna go over the.
Oh, that's all right.
Don't be nervous.
This part over here. This is existing,
Yeah,
and this part I'm building new.
okay,
That's my problem is over here.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
the setback.
Great. What I want to know is the porch layer. Is the porch going to come overhang into this area, or is it going to be on the property?
On the property.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah, on the property.
Great. Okay. That was my biggest question.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have like one.
Sorry. Do you want to show these to them as
Oh.
well? Just let them see this.
Over here. For the existing house, like the footprint. And this actually is 1 foot away from the property line. And I'm trying to buy this, just talk to Bell and my uncle. I have a lawyer to buy this, because I don't know why they have this. Sure. And that's how the house is gonna look like.
So there's a plan, you got a building plan for the house?
Yes.
itself already?
Garage that.
I went through, yeah, the garage.
The garage has had a lot of work done to it.
Yeah.
So that's already there?
Yes.
So is the access to the home still going to stay on Stoddard Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Michael, do you have any questions?
Yeah, only that's not the plot plan that was provided as part of the application. But the one I'm looking at doesn't have any setbacks to the property lines from the house at all. This was done afterwards.
Yes, but I don't think this is accurate, because this spot will be in.
Michael, do we have a copy of
No,
what he's showing us that we can provide to Michael, the other Michael?
Yeah, that was
He's looking at something that looks a little different than.
Well, what were you just looking at?
That's a better graph.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can explain.
Yeah.
This is the Michael, this is, what you're looking at is the new survey plan that I had requested be provided to the board ahead of this meeting. Because the old plan didn't show the distance much, well, so you see those arrows, and it says, that's actually a 1, this is 1 foot. The last plan didn't show that, so on behalf of the board, I was concerned that the board couldn't grant a variance not knowing how close the structure actually was to the property line. So that's why I requested this be provided. And so, in doing that, Mr. Santos's surveyor found that those stairs, as they're shown in that plan, are encroaching into what is technically the road right-of-way. Even though it is unpaved and pretty much acts entirely as the front yard to this property.
You know, historical roads, strange things happen, and so those stairs encroach onto the right-of-way. My biggest question that I was just discussing with Eric and with Mr. Santos was, I was concerned that the porch that is shown in the renderings would be a further encroachment into that right-of-way. This board having no jurisdiction to allow for something like that would only create more problems. Mr. Santos just confirmed that the porch would not go onto the right-of-way and would remain within the property lines. So I believe at this time he's still asking for an entire variance for the entirety of the 25 feet. Given that the stairs obviously go not only up to the property line but past it.
So that footprint that says existing foundation and addition cellar are existing.
Yes.
That's what he's building.
Yes.
Makes it a lot clearer, that's for sure. Okay.
All right, any other questions from the board? Do we have anybody from the public, any neighbors, anybody here to speak? All right. I don't have any concerns about this one. Does anybody else?
I do not. Do we have to worry about conditioning to make sure that we allow for those steps to encroach into?
Yes, I understand it.
I mean, we provide for the variance.
Michael, do we have any authority with respect to the encroachment?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
You would definitely, as a matter of good practice, want to prevent it, which is why I brought up the question.
Which I will.
Yeah. But I would, if you wanted to make a condition of approval that, that just states that no further encroachment shall be incurred by the proposed new home, I think that's sufficient. Do you have jurisdiction as to whether, possibly, maybe, I think that's a fine condition to have on an application like this. It's just that, my point originally was that the ZBA can't, because you are not, the select board is who controls the right of way, is really the issue.
Yeah.
And so the concern I was getting to is that if there was going to be a further encroachment, or if we even need it now with regard to the steps, and I don't know that we do, I'm not inclined to pursue it any further, but it could be accomplished through an easement with the select board. But as Mr. Santos was saying, he's pursuing discontinuing that portion of what is technically road in order to be conveyed to him. I think unfortunately we're probably a ways away from that actually happening, so we're stuck in this situation, but we're attempting to have that rectified.
Okay. What is the process for discontinuing it? Does that require a town meeting vote?
Yes. Public hearings through select board, recommendations through planning board.
Do we know the history on why that
Not yet.
jet out was there? Was the road ever wider there, or was it?
It looks, if you look, I don't have it up anymore, but it looks like it's for a specific purpose would be my guess. It's not like a variable road width. It is a carve out of that property. It's very strange.
Weird.
I imagine we'll find out once the title search is done through, should the select board sponsor an article to have that discontinued. It's my recommendation that Mr. Santos' attorney is the one who does all the title work on that and presents that to the town. And so we'll probably find out at that time why it's like that.
Okay. All right, I would welcome a motion to approve the application if the board agrees with that. Subject to the condition that the encroachment not be expanded any further. Bob, do you want to make that?
Sure. I move to approve the application for variance from the required front yard setback pursuant to Section 300-4.2 of the Town of Upton zoning bylaws and grant relief from the front yard setback as described in the application and plan submitted.
Of 25 feet.
of 25 feet.
Sorry.
And subject to the conditions.
Subject to the-
encroachment.
I second the motion. I think you like that.
All right. All right, go to the board. Bob?
Bob Butler, yes?
Bob Hughes, aye.
Michael?
Michael Gill, aye.
Eric Russell,
Thank you.
aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, I'll send you an email.
Your barn came up very nice, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that is the weirdest property line I've ever seen. No idea. Okay. All right, well, thank you everyone for their patience. Okay, special permit for a variance for 162 Milford Street. This is for a sign down at Bob Matuz's place. Bob, you want to come up and tell us what you're looking for?
Sure. So we're looking to replace an old existing sign. Really, what was only left there was just posts. Because when that came down, we got a permit years ago to do a sign on the front of the building, awning, and then we replaced the awning with the U-Haul sign that's on the front of the building now. So I contracted a sign guy out to do a new sign by the street, and talked to him about getting a permit to do that, and he said, it's all set. And what he meant was, when we did the building, it was all set. This one here, it wasn't all set. So we had a miscommunication at the beginning. Well, the sign's up, so the electrical contractors came out, tried to pull a permit, said, well, we can't do that until we do the sign. Well, this is how it's transpired. Okay, so what I said, well, let's just get the permit, pull the permit, and let's go through the proper channels and get this done. So he said, go ahead, I pulled the permit. He pulled the permit, and I followed up with Amy on everything else. So what I was looking to do was just to put a sign higher than, Alfred's got a sign next door to me, his sign's there. High enough so it doesn't restrict his sign, high enough that it doesn't restrict any vision, and far enough back on the street that it doesn't become a hazard. So 30 feet back from the street, 15 feet high. And do you have the dimensions? You have the dimensions of the sign? Yeah. So that's what we have. We're looking to go a little bit bigger, I think, what the town allows, and then backlight it with lighting inside the sign.
I'm not sure what the other board members, they have their own opinion. The backlighting is a huge concern of ours. We generally don't allow backlighting in Upton.
I understand that. Can you fill me in why?
It just is, they don't want to look like a cheap commercial thing. Generally, I'm assuming that your hours are primarily during the daylight hours.
My hours are during the daylight hours, but we do have 24-hour pickup and drop off U-Hauls. And, but we do have the parking lot lit too, you know.
Yeah, you are allowed to light it from a light, a certain amount of light onto the sign.
Okay.
But where the sign generally, it's radiating outward. So that's the concern. The other something to think about, you got a lot of signs down there. I mean, you have a big sign across the front, which is fine. You got the big U-Haul sign. You got the big truck parked out front with a sign on it,
No, that's not there anymore. That's been going for 6 months now.
Okay.
And that's where the new sign is, where the truck was.
I mean, in all honesty, I would say I went down there and looked at the new sign. To me, it's a nice looking sign. Someone did a nice job on it. But I would like to hear from the board members here as to what they think.
I did take a picture of it lit so that you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like lit.
The hard thing is, I don't want to say there are no lit signs, but most of the lit signs are all ones that have been grandfathered in. We haven't permitted, like, I don't want to say any, but I know there's a couple of businesses that were pre-existing and had stuff. I know Dunkin' Donuts replaced theirs, they had them, but they're also open at 5:30, 6 in the morning in the winter.
No, I understand, and what my what my request is gonna be is to be able to backlight until 10 o'clock at night. So when it gets dark out,
What are your hours of operation?
my hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5, and then Saturdays, Saturday mornings.
Say, Mike, am I correct? Our bylaw says that we can authorize internal lighting, but not longer than 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after the hours of operation.
I believe that's what it says. I'll double check right now, but yeah, I think you're right.
512,
That's what I did in the last
Section 6 says exactly that.
Yeah. I'd go along with that.
And one other question I have, I drove by earlier and I didn't see I saw the sign. I didn't see the car portion on the top of it. Is that up there now?
That's on there, that's all,
Okay, I must have overlooked
that's
that.
all part of the sign.
It's not that, the car's not that big. It looks.
No, I know. My question was
You
just
should have the picture.
because that increases it to 46 square feet, where I think our maximum is normally 20, and the bylaws authorize us to go up to double if we issue a special permit. But 46 is more than double.
Can I come show you?
Yeah.
So here's up, here's the sign.
Okay, I'll go with that one. So.
It also, it lights up with the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been down there.
Okay, all right, yeah, I don't have it powered up right now, so make a decision, so.
Does the whole car light up?
The car
Yes.
lights up, yeah. Yeah, it's LED lighting in the cabinet. And it's not terribly bright where it doesn't show light out on the parking lot because it has, the sign itself will have LED floodlights to put down on the parking lot, just like on the building ends. Just because we've had it for, oh my God, the last 20 years, there's been lights up in the poles that National Grid controls, but they're all starting to, die out. The old, I don't know what they call those, mercury vapor lights, I think they are. And we don't have a contract with them anymore because LED lighting is so much cheaper. So yeah, I'm not looking to do anything too crazy here. Just, at night during the wintertime, it kind of, it can be on for a few hours, or, I don't want it on all night. I certainly don't want to leave it on all night. I want to leave it on at night. It doesn't even have to be on in the morning hours when it's dark.
Mike, you sent out a recommendation on this, right?
Yeah,
I
just
think I said that.
staff memo, yeah.
I saw that.
Mr. Matusas, what are your Saturday morning hours?
I am there from 9 to 11.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, there is that other sign in front of it, so I can get that. I don't think it's a bad looking sign. I'm worried about precedent.
Yep. What?
Precedent. We have to be really careful with that.
I
Because if we allow it for one person, we have to allow it for
Yeah,
somebody
right.
else.
I understand.
But I also know that the sign on the restaurant that just closed.
Frescoes?
What is it?
Frescoes?
Frescoes.
No, not Frescoes, the one, the breakfast place over by the Hat Factory. They had made a sign that turned out to be not quite as big as this, but it was all painted, and then they read the requirements of the sign and found it was too big. And in that particular case, we did allow it. I understand the other sign. You guys can vote however you want. My biggest issue is the backlighting. There is another sign right there, and he is trying to be above it. There's just a lot of signage down there. You got like, U-Haul is mentioned, if this, is mentioned on that left-hand side sign.
It's two places, like the front of the building and the sign on the right, the new one, okay? And on the front of the building. There is a...
Well, three, because then you have this
On the-
U-Haul, all rental parking. That's a big sign. So it's mentioned in 3 different places.
Oh, that's just parking on the, I mean, it's just guiding people to that side of the building, that's where you bring your trucks when you come in. Those are just instruction signs, so.
Oh, that's a weird thing, the contact picture of that. Two of those. What are your thoughts, sir?
I agree with the backlighting not on the signs. It really, would it be helpful? Do you need to have the car on top? Can that?
As far as, you need to have the car on top.
Of the sign. Suppose you didn't have the car on top
Oh
of the
gosh,
sign.
well, because it's part of the sign, it's molded into the cabinet of the sign.
Car doesn't look bad.
Are you talking about the
I drive by the sign.
size-wise?
I think it's as I said, it's sort of like a classic looking sign. I think it looks,
Yeah.
I think it looks
I
good.
mean, it depends what we do.
You know, personally,
Yeah.
and I would object if I thought.
Well, I'm going to have you say that exact same thing.
Okay.
At the microphones, to keep this gentleman happy and her with the minutes.
No, I got it. I have it from before.
You had it from before, okay, thank
My
you.
memory's not that bad.
You know, yeah, as I said, I think it's sort of like a classic.
No, it is a nice looking sign,
Yeah,
and
as I said, I
it's
like it.
black, so it doesn't like really
Yeah,
stand out.
It doesn't totally pop.
Crazy.
Yeah, it has the oranges in it that, you know, in my name, that just kind of, it depicts the whole, yeah, the U-Haul thing, what the cars, what I do. I work on cars, we service cars, we sell cars. And it's just everything that I do is depicted in that sign.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Humes?
Well, they allow the backlighting, but we are very forceful on the 30 minutes. It won't be lit up in darkness very often because if you're closing at 5. it'll
Yeah,
be
right.
fall. So that would at least allow us to have some control, but then it won't allow you to have a lot of lighting at the dark time of the day. So
But there are other lights on that pole, down line. He's got some other lights.
Yeah, so I mean, if the backlighting wasn't there, there are spotlights for the parking lot that come right,
Yeah.
that shine down on the parking lot. And those are pretty much just to replace those ones that are up, that I'm not paying for anymore. They're just going out one at a time, every year another one goes out, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, those lights are on the pole. So,
People.
yeah, it can be,
You'll be able to get
it
it
can be
safely.
wired that way, because right now it's wired up with the backlighting and the spotlights will come down on the lot. So, like I said, I'm here to comply and do whatever you folks tell me to do. I just want to let you know where I'm coming from, and I'll do whatever you want me to do.
we're just trying to do it too much because then the next group comes in.
I know, it's
So
all kind of.
we're trying to balance.
Yeah,
That's what I see.
I understand.
Size.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the sign, it doesn't bother me at all, I think it looks nice. It's just, our bylaw limits us to that 40 feet square feet area, and also limits the height. Like I said, I don't actually have a problem with the sign itself. I thought it looked nice, and the backlighting doesn't bother me that much because of where you're located.
Mhm.
I don't think it's that big of an issue.
It's not so much a residential area up here, it's mostly commercial area up there.
Yeah.
Michael, you have any comments or questions? What's your thought on the boards? We're very undecided here, truthfully.
The sign looks okay, I'm still trying to understand how that car gets lit up. Is that on a white background that's lit up?
So,
Well, can you show the picture in front of that camera so Mike can see it? Or whose camera would see this? Would it be your camera, Mike?
Are you talking about the?
How could we show Mike his picture of what it looks like?
Oh,
Put up to the camera.
can Can you email that to me real quick?
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah.
We're gonna email it to you, Mike.
Well, I'll email it to you, and I can, I'll bring it up on the screen.
All right.
Just hit message.
I think we went to 30 minutes.
Yeah. And then, you know, it's not, we don't always have to vote exactly the same. You know, it's nice that we have such unity, but frankly, that's unusual, I think, on many boards. We all have tremendous respect for everyone who tells us opinions. This is right on the other side of this truck. Yeah. I'm glad to hear that the truck's gone, because that was something that was like, and that's huge. You can't bring anything on a truck. I believe I was reading that. So I would much rather have this sign than that truck. And I do understand from this side, like, let's see if I can show it. When you're coming down the road from here, you see Consigli's sign.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a sign right here that says Consigli.
Yeah.
There it is right there. Yeah, right here. See this? Something? And he's right behind that.
Yeah.
So what he is he's just trying to be above it,
Yeah.
which I totally get. I mean, to me, it's a very industrial, it's a very commercial area.
Yeah.
I just don't like backlighting. I wish they would read the rules first. On the fact, though, that we did violate our rules because they painted it on for a piece of plywood, and it was supposed to be,
What about the coffee shop then? Didn't we just allow that backlighting on that sign?
Dunkin' Donuts?
No, across the street.
Coffee bean.
But those were pre-existing.
I was asked to prove that's the decision I took to copy to write this decision. The coffee bean
But
was
that
added as that. All the other ones in that
Plaza
area were
backlit.
backlit, except for that.
Yes, that whole plaza was backlit.
I wanted to mention.
No, as long as we follow the rules on the backlight in a half hour, I'm okay with it.
That's
The
what
other
it's
thing I will say on that other decision, because I was just reading over it,
Yep.
is you, if the lumens became an issue, you would have to have it changed. as a
Ah,
condition.
okay, that's a great idea. Okay.
Through the chair, just to piggybacking on what Eric was saying, yeah, the bylaw does state up to a maximum of 40 square feet. The 40 square feet would be would be the I'll just call it the sign excluding the car on top.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly 40 square feet. So this board would have the ability to grant a special permit for that. Given that it's dimensional in nature, I'm sort of unclear as to whether or not you'd be able to grant a variance up and above that, you know what I mean? But, I mean, if this board was so inclined and felt that they liked this proposal, we can certainly, you can certainly consider that. You know, and if somebody were to challenge it, who knows if it would,
Yeah, it's a shame, because in all honesty, no offense to Batuza Automotive or U-Haul, the car's the best part.
Yeah. Did you folks send me the picture?
Mike, did you send him a picture?
Yeah, I was just waiting for it to show up.
I'll get rid of the sign, just keep the car.
Yes. I know Bob Humes likes that era car.
It's 1972 Rosenville Cutlass.
I think we have another Bob that likes that car.
High school had one of those.
The 442s, those were classics.
Those were classics, yeah.
It was the gentleman's muscle car.
Oh, there we go. That's bright.
Yeah.
It is.
Ah.
I would agree with that.
Well, Amy has a condition that she just suggested that has been put on previous ones where we reserve the right to ask the number of lumens to be turned down.
Yeah, we can adjust that. It does have adjustment on that calendar.
Because I would definitely say turn it down and keep to the half-hour thing if we're going to do it.
Yeah, we have a timer on it.
Okay. All right. Yes, Michael?
No, I'm just thinking that maybe that photo was a little overexposed because it's a dark background, but it looks pretty bright.
We'll ask them to turn it down to begin with, and then if there's any complaints on the lumens, we'll go even lower.
Okay.
All right. Bob, you want to make, well, I'm sorry, I did not ask for any comments from the public, I always do. Either of you, I already heard yours.
I sort of like it. I think it's like sort of retro looking. I think it's cool.
We're dating ourselves with the 442. Well, why don't you make a motion, but address the lumens, the hours, and feel free to vote against or for. I know you love this. You're.
Do we get a motion all four of these?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I had written it out.
Yeah.
The only thing, all three of them, not the last one,
Okay.
because I didn't realize that there was a survey on file that showed that was actually 30 feet back. So he's actually compliant with the setback. So the first three. Do you have them?
Yep.
Okay.
I got them right here. Yep. I move to approve a special permit pursuant to section 300-5.1.12.e to allow a freestanding sign with interior illumination as presented. I'll list the condition afterwards. I move to approve a variance from the maximum 20 square foot sign area requirement of section 300-5.12.g to allow an approximately 46 square foot sign as presented. I move to approve a variance from the maximum 10-foot height requirement for freestanding signs pursuant to section 5.12.g to allow a 14-foot, 10-inch freestanding sign as presented. The illuminations to be reduced as a condition and the hours of operation of the sign to be no greater than 30 minutes after business hours and 30 minutes prior to opening business hours.
And Michael, do we also need a variance to meet the 46 feet? Because the special permit allows up to the 40.
I would just offer a friendly amendment to those motions to highlight just that.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Humes, you want to second that or not?
I will second that motion.
Okay. Vote of the board, Bob Humes.
Bob Humes, aye.
Bob Upright.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Michael Pleb.
Michael Gelb, aye.
There we go. All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Please tell your friends to read the dimensional sizes beforehand. But anyways.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I
But-
appreciate you guys.
And I'm glad the truck's not there, because that was one of my bugaboos. I was like, not if he's keeping
Yeah, the truck's gone. That was just,
in
that
place of.
came with you all.
If it was a road runner, I would have voted it much easier.
It was an old one, that, because I do so much business, because I rent out so many trucks, they gave me that one as
As a sign thing.
yeah, so, but I gave it back to them.
Unfortunately, Mass law doesn't really address that very well, because I've looked at it many, many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, he likes, really, road runners, you want,
Oh,
you want the wing and everything on it? All right.
440.
Well, poor Al, anyways, poor Alice has been waiting. Well, thank you very much, sir. Poor Alice has been waiting all night. Alice, you want to come up and just introduce yourself and tell us what you're supposed to do?
So, Alice Gentili, can you hear me? 120 Elm Street. I have an art studio that was built over the past year, and it's, I noticed on the paperwork it says I'd like to do art classes on the second floor. There is no second floor, it's just a two-car garage. One bay is a gallery, the other bay is a working studio for myself only. So I would like to occasionally offer small group art classes in pottery and painting. Morning, afternoon, evening, primarily during the good weather seasons, because I use the garage gallery part as a garage in the wintertime. And that's it. So I have provided a diagram of our layout, our yard layout, and we abut the power line. So we actually have a driveway that's right beside the power line on which we can fit between 6 and 8 cars. I don't expect that there would be that many, but just to relieve you of any concern. And also our driveway itself can hold at least 4 cars and even 6.
Thank you for providing that parking plan, by the way. just surprised that the Massachusetts teacher's retirement doesn't pay you in so many bars of gold that you would want to consider working.
Well, Bill, once a teacher, always a teacher.
I
don't think you can turn down a teacher.
Yeah. So,
You can take the teacher out of the classroom, but being an artist, I enjoy that camaraderie, that networking, that the buzz about art that you don't get. You get it in your own head, but it doesn't go anywhere, so.
So what's the term? Ancillary use? What's the term?
Oh, accessory.
Accessory use.
Yeah.
It's not a primary use. It's an accessory use. We have allowed home businesses prior. We've allowed T-shirt shops. We've allowed. That's this list. We've allowed home daycares. I mean, we wouldn't have not much more traffic or something like that. We've allowed a person that makes furniture out of recycled wood in past times. I'd like to get comments to the board, but I myself don't have any concern.
No, just do it to business, smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, safety, things like that. I don't know if that would be required to be viewed by anyone, but just to, as a business, keep that in the back mind, because, so you don't get in trouble later from someone else and say, oh, she didn't have that there, and something happened.
Do you have a kiln?
Yeah, kiln, it was, we got the occupancy permit at the end of November just last year. And in order to get that, we do have smoke detectors
so that's all right.
and heat detectors.
Okay.
And I have just one kiln that I've honestly been firing in an old barn for 10 years. We just moved it inside, so.
How often will you be doing classes?
Honestly, I did retire, and I do work part-time for a few colleges, so I'm not looking to do it all the time. But I'm getting a lot of requests from parents and former students and friends, just for small little gatherings. So I'd say once a week, at best maybe twice a week.
Do you have a sense of what time? And would it be on the weekends or the evenings?
It probably would not be on the weekends, just personally. Evenings or afternoons, I'd say after school.
Okay.
Did we get any communications from any neighbors?
Yes, one in support, and I'm sorry, I had the craziest day, but someone was gonna email me, a neighbor, and he was in support.
There we go. Yes.
And I will note it in the minutes, once I track down the email.
We love to see
He may
stuff
not
like
have been
that.
able to email me today, so,
Yeah.
but he did call and I spoke with him, and he was going to email me.
That's great. That's good to know.
I'd like to hear that. I'd like very much like to hear that too. Well, I personally don't have any concerns. Michael, do you have any questions or concerns for Alice?
Nope, I'm all for art.
All right, there we go. Okay, Eric, you want to make this motion?
Yeah. Great. I move to approve the application for a special permit pursuant to section 300-9.3 of the Upton zoning bylaw. Approve the application of Alice Gentili at 120 Elm Street to operate art classes in the garage space.
Humes, I need from one of you, I need a second.
I second.
Okay. Go to the board. Bob?
Yes, I.
Bob? Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
And Michael?
Here we go, aye.
All right, there we go. Awesome. Thank you very much. You're all set. Just so you know, I think it's a 20-day appeal period on this, on special permits too. And then Amy will give you the.
I'll send you an email with all the information.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your years of
Thank you,
service
everyone.
helping the kids. It's wonderful. Okay, general business. So I wanted to have a discussion on change of bylaw. So something that came up, and Michael, you might want to help out with this. Do you remember what there was two different things. One is the notification, but this one was to ask for a change so that we wanted to change the chart, that something could be, I think, what?
So, it was basically about the last application, other applications that you've seen recently. So, it's my opinion that So, in regards to the last application, or I should say, it doesn't matter.
And South Street.
Yeah, in South Street, that would have been better addressed as an appeal of the building commissioner's decision, rather than a special permit. And as I've written in my review memos, it's because there's no provision in the zoning bylaw that states explicitly that if you have a home occupation that exceeds the parameters that are provided, that you have the option to pursue a special permit. So, so given that, and given the I'll say preference of this board, the good nature of this board to work with folks who want to have home occupations, and I think it's absolutely a worthwhile conversation. The building commissioner's been taking a hard stance on the stock and trade portion of the bylaw. You know, lists everything you can and can't have, and one of those things says that you can't have stock and trade on site. And so the thing that we keep running into is, much like Ms. Gentili, there was concern about the conformance to that bylaw with stock and trade, because she would have, you know, clay pots or just clay or anything, art supplies that are there for her students or whoever to. We're going to get into much discussion of it, but I presume, like, if that's for sale or not, or if it's included in the cost of the class, or however it breaks down. But then, like Mr. Deanna, at South Street, obviously the stock and trade was the motors and engines and things that he'd be working on.
If it was stained glass studio for the art one, you would sell your students. Someone has to have the stained glass for the students to pick through and buy.
Or if somebody's doing a woodworking shop that they're, you know what I mean, in town that I think exists, whether or not we had to set approval from any board or not. But like, these are typical, very typical home occupations that you see, especially in a community like Upton. So it would make sense that there would be a provision to exceed the very strict parameters of the home occupation bylaw and say, if you have stock and trade, and I'm just offering, this is just an example of something you might want to suggest. You could suggest, if you have stock and trade, then you can get a special permit to allow for it.
Now, do we have to go to the planning board or to the select board?
Planning board. So it would be a zoning bylaw change. All zoning bylaws need to go through planning board first before it goes to town meeting.
So,
or you could just,
what would be the best procedurally? What would be the best route for us to do this? Should we have you guys draft some language? Should we look at other towns and see what their language is?
Yeah.
And then maybe come together as a board?
Yeah. Those are all fine options. I know from my experience, other towns I've worked in, I remember the first town I worked in had varying degrees of home occupancy, home occupations. One of them was like low impact home occupation, medium impact home occupation, and then high impact home occupation. Obviously that one required review through a board, but the others were potentially just approved administratively. So, I mean, you could do it like that, or you could do what I suggested earlier, just identifying the things that tend to get people in front of this board, which is the stock and trade portion of it. Say if you're doing stock and trade, you need to come for a special permit. Unless you want to look at it a little bit more holistically, like you suggested, and do a comparison across multiple towns to see how it's being managed. It's really whatever the preference of this board and how you would like to see that played out, obviously in the real world, right? So what are the impacts you'd be, I start with, what are the impacts you'd be most concerned about? I would imagine it would be traffic, being, you know, you have a single family home that's not built to sustain large gatherings from time to time.
Yeah, someone's trying to do a party house, essentially.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having the different levels. What do you guys think of us? Like you have a lot of experience, and you can steer us to different things. What if you throw out a couple things, some of us look at some of, I don't mind going on other people's websites and looking what they have. A lot of other towns have stuff out there. But we can never do this unless it's not, we can't talk about it unless it's in a public meeting, and I want to make sure we follow those rules. We can share ideas. I would rather them be shared through you, so we don't have any conflict of. You've got to be very careful about that.
I don't, it's probably not worth drafting yet, but it's probably worth having, pull a couple of examples to send in. If anybody else wants to look for any that they like and wants to circulate them for discussion, they should go to Michael to be sent out to the board with the next meeting package.
Yeah. And there's no rush with this. The other one that I've had for this is, I've heard for, I can't tell you how many people on this whole notification thing. The fact that we're doing the registered return receipt, I think it cost me like $700 when I came before you guys. Someone in town came to me to complain because they had 17 acres and there were 200 abutters at $7 a piece. $1,400 just for the notifications. And it doesn't need to, the state law doesn't require that. So I would like to, whatever Gary Schultz has come to me with that, he has to notify people all over the place. So I would like to see us get that changed too. And you said we could do it as, Michael had suggested to me that might be something, we've never adopted any rules. Now, I'm assuming that this can be just done as a rule change, but if it is.
I think that's in the bylaws, right? The required for notice by registered.
Good question. I haven't seen that yet, but I haven't done a lot of digging for it. So if it's a bylaw change, that's a planning board thing. That's an easy thing to, I certainly wouldn't mind drafting a town meeting article for that immediately. That'd be a very easy change to make ahead of this town meeting.
And in the past, like.
All the boards require that right now.
Not, Conservation Commission does something different. Or they provide an option that you can like go around to. This is what Grace from 5-4 was in the office saying, and so apparently you can go to your neighbors and just have them sign that you gave them the notice individually. Yeah.
Well, the other thing is like, historically, we never had someone like Ewing who's got all this stuff, on rails. If we could get Val downstairs to print from the assessor's office to print the addresses on labels instead of just the regular.
She does.
Right, print them right on labels, and your time is valuable, and you have to be compensated for it. But if we had a printed label, we had the envelope, and we had the notification, or we could even get the seniors to send them out. But if we sent them out, we know they'd get out. It would meet the state requirement. I don't mind if we have to go to the planning board or rule change either way, but it would take away, the idea of a $1,400 burden on somebody. For Gary's job, Bob, the actual job was $16,000. All the hoops and stuff that we required from him was another $16,000. So here it was $32,000 for his. It wasn't us; it was conservation in that particular time.
We can look into the options that the post office provides. Bill was talking to you about this. There are options between regular mail and certified, right? That can provide some return receipt. What were you saying?
Evidence.
Yeah, evidence is what. Yeah, exactly. In the form of a return receipt or some signature or otherwise, because with while there is no statutory requirement for public hearings to send out certified mail, it's common practice because it provides for exactly that, the evidence, the record of it. Because oftentimes, as you probably know from sitting on this board, is that people will show up and say, I was never notified of this. Whether or not they're at that meeting or not, they will still say I wasn't notified. And that, it's not something, that's a challenge that's not often held up in court, but it's a challenge that just creates a hiccup and creates just opportunity for conflict.
Yeah,
throughout
I'm
the
just trying
process.
to get the price down. You know, citizens should be able to access a board like us without spending $1,400.
Yeah.
You know, that's my point, is it should be reasonable for them to come before us. And that's not a reasonable price. So if we can get some options and maybe finalize, I'll talk to the post office.
Yeah.
And if you could, you see if it's actually written in there, and have for our next meeting, have that information. I'll look too. It is supposedly searchable, but I didn't find it.
Yeah, I was just searching, and I didn't find it, so I'm curious if we can find out what the source is, why we've been requiring
Yeah,
that.
it could just be.
Yeah, if it's something we
Which is
can
what
do
was
by.
written on the directions when I started, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's written on the
I just
directions.
assumed that was what everyone
Yeah,
had
if
to
we're
do.
calling the directions that are on the application, the rules and regulations that were formally adopted by this board, which probably could be, we should advertise for a public hearing and to just correct that, or make that change in the actual application form. That shouldn't be a big deal. And then we can tackle the task of a larger rules and regulations over the next few years, quite honestly, because that's gonna be
I don't want to have too many
a
rules.
project.
It's like handcuffing ourselves.
Yeah.
I know you would love it. He's like gleeful.
Do we have any insight as to what other towns do in relation to charging?
Most,
Are we that out of whack?
No.
some do it themselves, some have the people do it, other have the clients do it. You know what it comes down to is professional staff.
Yep.
When you don't have professional staff, the citizens have to do everything.
Right.
When you do have a professional staff, very knowledgeable, they can do, oh, I'm sorry. At least it was there. You know, when you have professional staff that really know their stuff, like I wouldn't know that Valerie has that stuff on labels, because I hand wrote.
She does charge people $20 for their labels,
But you know what?
because she prints them and she gives them
Right.
copies for all of their letters.
But with my handwriting, I'd pay $20. But do you think that for the one that's the 12, the 200 abutters, would you pay $20 for all the abutters for 200?
That hasn't happened since I've been here.
I know someone has a big chunk of land that's surrounded. It's a lot of butters. It's many acres of land, but it's super expensive.
Yeah.
So let's, anyways, so why don't we just all put our thinking caps on, you know, what would we, if we're gonna do from changes, let's see what changes we can do. Let's try to make accessing public boards at a more reasonable price. And let's try to make it so that these home businesses, let's go through the proper process with the planning board and town meeting so that, I think the landscape has changed with home businesses. You know, Michael's meeting us, you're on Main Street, right, Mike?
Yeah, I am.
You know, I mean, I have to, I'm gonna miss the August meeting, but I'm gonna attend the same way you are. And I'm gonna be in South Carolina. Eric's gonna have to chair that meeting for me. But that's amazing how that has changed. And I think.
Yeah, I do a lot of business meetings through Zoom.
Yeah, so this to me, I love the idea of low impact, medium impact, and high. Like I would say South Street might have been towards low to medium. An art studio, I'd say low. But the high impact ones, we might want to say no to unless there's a real good reason for it.
Well, then you know, because stock and trade can be any amount. If you own an art shop, 5 pounds of pottery is different than a wood shop, and I'm gonna have 30 coats of wood in the backyard.
That's what I was gonna say. Stock and trade and
absolutely.
is the tough one.
Yeah, there was a guy on High Street who had trucks of wood trash that he was removing, and if he needed the truck to be empty for Monday morning and they had full load on Saturday, didn't have time to empty it, he dumped it in his yard.
Go get it.
Then we ended up with all sorts of piles and piles of trash and rats.
Yeah,
So, all right. So I think we know what we want to do. I hope you guys don't mind me pushing those two things. I think we need to legitimize and formalize these home businesses. and I think we need to make access to people better. Michael and Amy, you guys keep us on track. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight? I know we have an April meeting minutes.
Yes, I did not yet finish May.
Right, but I've said rather April, you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, anything else for us? Amy, anything else for us other than minutes?
No, that's it.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to read the April minutes? Can I get a motion, sir, anybody?
I'll make a motion that we accept the April minutes as read.
Second.
Okay, vote of the board. Bob.
Hughes, aye.
Bob.
Bob Butler, aye.
Bill. Hi.
Eric Russell, aye.
Michael.
Michael Gelb, aye.
Okay, thank you. I think we now have the most important
No,
motion of the
I
evening.
have a question before that.
Yes, sir.
With on that one with the stairs being right up to the property line, would have been an option to make them temporarily removable in case they ran into, they were on the wrong side of the line? Would something like that help us? if we got
Well,
in trouble?
because on the town line, we can't even, it's the town's business to deal with it. I think those stairs are stone, and they're just sitting there.
Oh, okay.
So technically, the town owns those stairs.
I see.
Mike, from driving by that many times, I think you're right, they are still.
Yeah, and the other option, like, I didn't want to say anything because I was up there. The other option would be to put the stairs on the side
of the porch.
of the porch, would have been allowed too.
That was gonna be my recommendation.
What's that?
That was gonna be my recommendation if it would turn into a bigger problem.
Yeah, but under the headline of "Let Sleeping Dogs Lie,"
So we get in trouble later.
I cannot believe though, they spent months working on that house.
Yeah.
And then to just tear into the rafters, I mean, they should have replaced one, done them one at a time, and they just tried to take them all out.
It was so funny, they were working so good on the garage.
Yeah, they did a
and
beautiful job.
Beautiful job, they started the house, and then one day the next day it was down.
No, the worst part is, it was still connected to electricity, the whole 9 yards. They sent,
Let's adjourn.
oh, wait a second, we need to adjourn.
I got one more question.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
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 Michael? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Here.